Yes. I'm assuming it's recording. So I think you should start just as you were.
Well, I think, Alex, as you said, the only way to kick off an event of this magnitude is to get us going. You ready?
I'm ready.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Well, you know, it's. I didn't sell my devil. No, hang on. I didn't sell my soul to the devil at the crossroads, which is why I'm not very good.
Well, thank goodness. I was worried about that again. Yeah.
A concern. Right, we've got all manner of things to talk about today, haven't we?
We
Tell
sure
about
do.
you. You're great.
Oh, that's right. So I got to tell you about me. My name is Alex Asher. I'm the CEO of LearnCube. We help and specialize in helping language schools with both a virtual classroom made for language teaching and also a full end-to-end online school software. But I'm here with the marvelous Thom Jones, as in, and are you going to sing for us? No, we're not going to go into that because he's the ESL version, Thom Jones, and he is amazing at all things ESL. He is a lot of years of experience in business consulting. Thom, stop blowing your own horn.
That, what he said, that, I'm that. My name is Thom Jones and I run a consultancy called Brock Solutions Agency. And I've been delighted to talk with Alex about a variety of topics about sales, about education, and about education sales.
Yeah, that sounds very good. It seems very timely, does it not?
Oh.
And today we are going to be talking about successful sales strategies for selling online language courses, which again, very important. So we're going to be talking through three main ideas. We're going to be talking through knowing your customer. We're going to be talking through selling what students are buying. And I am definitely, we're going to have a big chat about the techniques in terms of bringing on new sales. So without further ado, I'm going to share the screen and everything's going to be amazing. So, pow.
My magic share screen gesture. Using the force to share the screen. There we are. Yeah.
I think it worked.
People laugh, but that works. Yeah. Actually, that screen is now shared, people. Doubters.
And now we have it. And begin we will. So let's start off by talking about the customer. And when I say the customer, if you're talking about your own customer, what do they look like? How well do you know them? And I think almost every marketing kind of course always starts off this one. However, I don't think you can ask this question enough. It's like, do you know your customer? And why do they care about what you offer? How are they wanting to, in this case, learn a language? What are they wanting to learn? Who are they? What their demographics? But also, do you have some, I guess, almost like avatars and pictures in your head of exactly what those students or customers look like? And also, do you know how much they're willing to pay for things? And I think particularly in today's age, how much they're willing to pay for things online and in person. And if there's a discrepancy there, then there may be something about your offering that you may need to change or communicate better in order to close the gap on those two. Thom, any thoughts on the customer and on students?
I think it's a really interesting one because we're seeing a very kind of solid customer base that we've all known for a long time going to concrete schools. And a lot of those concrete schools now going online in emergency and then suddenly thinking, actually, the market is now ready for this. We can do more of this, and trying to get in to the online market. And there is sometimes a struggle to realize who the customers are online compared to the customers for the concrete school. And there's sometimes, I think, a slight hesitation in thinking, right, well, I'll market through the channels that I know, to the people that I know. And actually, the joy of the online school is that anybody can come.
Yeah, that's it. And also, so I think that was a really good point though, Thom, which is, a lot of people are like, I know who my customer is. And I think the question right now is, who is your customer now? Because that may not be the same person or the same group of people.
Yeah, really good point. Excellent.
So maybe people have had a lot of time thinking how, we do summer schools. we always look after, we've got these great agents and they send their wonderful students over from Italy and we have this great experience. And maybe those same students are not going to be able to get to you this summer. So either your target market is the same, or it could be something completely different, or it could be much wider, but your offering may be much narrower. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about that, but it's so important to start with who are you serving, because everything else will start driving around that in terms of the decision making that you make in that process.
Because you stand up and you sell yourself online, and unless you know who you're selling to, what's your message? What are you saying to people about who you are and who you can make them?
That's right.
Aspirational.
Yeah, I like it. And actually, that's our next point then is, so what experience do they want?
Sorry, there's somebody whistling behind you.
Yeah, there is,
That's brilliant. I like that.
It's lockdown and people just want to whistle. So
I'm slightly traumatized by whistling because I had a Scottish girlfriend years ago, because we all have a Scottish girlfriend phase, and she hated whistling. And still now I find myself 20 years later occasionally whistling and suddenly going, ah! And being scared that she's going to shout at me. But
very
I'm fine. Apologies.
It's fine. It's fine. I actually find that I know you've got so many ex-girlfriends. This is the most amazing thing about you, Thom. I think you bring up an ex-girlfriend every time. I know that you're happily married, but I just love the fact
it's surprising, frankly, that anybody would have agreed to go out with me ever. And obviously, years ago when I was young and single, it was a surprise to me when anybody agreed to go out with me. So I do like to bring it up occasionally, to say there was a time when I was attractive.
There was so much more here, and actually it doesn't matter anymore. It still gets late.
I've pulled, so I'm fine.
Anyway, we're great here. I love that. Good. Rocking.
And I can now whistle freely. So,
you can.
Apologies, as you were.
I'm going to continue to mute and unmute myself, and may end up muting and unmuting you, Thom.
God, you really should, honestly.
We're going to be talking about what experience do students want, because in the end, your customer base may have changed. And if your customer base has changed, then perhaps what they want has also changed. Certainly, the way that they're going to get it may have changed, because maybe they can't come over to your country, in which case you're going to have to provide an online alternative. Or if that's the case, that you used to have lots of people come to you and now you can't, and you still want to go into that physical learning space, you're certainly going to need a different customer, and therefore you're going to be having a different conversation about what experience do they want. So all of that comes from who's your customer? Who is your customer now in particular? If you do need to have an online offering, which we think there's a really great opportunity for you, no matter what your situation, if that's true, then you really need to know what that customer looks like and what experience they want. And I think that was the area that Thom and I have talked a lot about, is ensuring that that experience really matches up with A, the pricing that you have, B, whether you teach, what sort of teachers do you have, like how engaged are they on either this new or the same kind of approach that you had. So all of the things that go into a physical school still have to be thought of in terms of an online experience. How do we make that a great experience? Thom?
Definitely, totally true. Totally agree with you. And I think what's important, isn't it, is when we're making that jump into the online market, just because the school itself hasn't done that before is no indication that the online market doesn't exist. The point you make very well, I think, is the fact that online education has been around for a long time. It's not a new thing. So if you're new to the market, it doesn't mean it's a new market. So if you're trying to replicate what other online schools are doing, they probably already do it much better. So trying to kind of jump in and do the same thing, how far is that going to get you? Whereas if you run a brilliant quality school, a boutique school in a great city, maybe that kind of special service to clients is important, and that's where you can shine.
I like that. And also kind of what outcomes as well, right? Like, so again, that's why it's so important to know who your customer is, because I mean, a kid, a teen, a professional, anybody that is trying to learn a language may have very different outcomes that they want. Some may really need to pass a test. Others, the test is irrelevant. It's more about learning the language itself, which is pretty exciting. At least that's how I kind of look at it. I'm not trying to learn French to pass a test. I'm just learning French so that I can show respect and also have a good conversation with people and build my language over time. That's my goal, but it's not everybody's. So the way that you would advertise to me would be very different compared to how you might advertise to a teen who's like, no, I've got to pass my French exam, otherwise X, Y, and Z is going to happen or not happen.
So it's a really, it's that lovely thing I think that Herbert mentioned in your webinar last week about selling to people where on one level they kind of don't know what they want, and if we're able to suggest to them that we do know what they want and what they need, then we can point them in really useful directions, and I don't mean that like a trick, like we kind of go, look, powder in your eyes, this is what you want, Jedi mind trick. I do mean, if you're saying to teens, for example, who are thinking, oh, I've got an exam and my parents are on my back, and I teach them on my back, if we're able to expose them to the joy that you're talking about of learning languages and saying, listen, look, there are marks in this, there is assessment, but actually it's about you. And it's about you having a brilliant experience, and it's about you showing respect and going to France and learning French, and that's brilliant, So if we can kind of give them what they need and show them that actually it's what they want, that's a really powerful message.
Definitely agree with that. And I think what we're seeing though as well is what you need to make sure is what your students, what you're offering, what that experience looks like really marries up incredibly well with what your customer wants to buy. So there's no, you're not going to be certainly you're not going to be succeeding online unless those two things are very, very close. I mean, in other sectors, they talk about product market fit. There's no different with your business online. How are you going to have the product, what you offer? And that might be in a particular format. So maybe it's an online school format. Some people I'm talking to are, and I think it's much more difficult in terms of there's lots of competition. It's already established, but in terms of these like online language tutoring marketplaces, as I say, they're kind of, there's quite a few of them, and some of those are really big and kind of, I guess what I'm saying is maybe don't go that route because it's difficult to win in that. But either way, people are buying different experiences, and you have to make sure that what you're selling is really unique and allows you to stand out. But again, is what your customers want to buy.
But it's also a really key point of knowing the market, isn't it? Because it's not only thinking, right, well, who are my customers? But you're also thinking, what are other people buying and who are they buying it from? Because we often think of competition and we talk about competition. And I, as a salesperson in my career, I often found it really powerful to contact other organizations who, for example, if I am looking to recruit Italian students, then I might contact a school in Milan that is selling direct to Italian students. And I'm saying to them, listen, look, I've got somebody who wants to learn English, but they are in Milan. I don't have a school in Milan. Can I send them to you?
Yeah.
They're kind of going, yeah. Do you want a commission? And they're a bit scared. You go, no, fine. Look, here's a student. There you go. Yeah. By the way, if anybody comes to you and they want what I've got, pass it on. And it's nice because you do promote a kind of healthy industry, but you also promote a very clear idea of competition in the sense that if your client says to you, can I buy a boat from you? And you're going, no, because we're a shoe shop. Are you just saying no? And they go, or are you saying, no, but I do know somebody who sells good boats, and then you're passing them on to somebody who wants good boats. And then that person who sells boats is passing them back to you when they want to buy shoes.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And you can also, even if you're not looking at that in terms of, one school and one school, because they may be more competitive than otherwise, but there are always going to be partners. So I think that's still a really good point. Like just, the same person that maybe is selling consulting could also be selling maybe a course to students, or at least find ways of kind of making that kind of work. So I think there's certainly a lot there. One thing I kind of thought of when you were bringing that up, Thom, was just, it'll come to me. Is actually, I'm going to go to the next slide. It'll come back to me, but you made a very good point.
I'm so pleased that you do that, because it was just me that did that.
Yeah. I can't imagine. People listening, you're going to love this point once I come up with it, and it's all because of Thom. This was the point. This was the point, Thom. I've got it. Okay. I've got it. You know how you're talking about competition?
Yes.
And people are like, oh, but they're my competition.
Mm.
Wait a minute. The online people were selling online a long time. You're the new competition. You're the upstarts.
Oh, brilliant. Of course. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
the one
yeah.
upsetting their business. So
Yeah,
if you're kind of worried about it, they're not stealing your students. You're stealing their students, if anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you
definitely.
need to be a lot better
Yeah,
than the current incumbents. And I
yeah.
think that, again, sort of helps set the standard of where you need to be.
Mm, That's a really good point. It's a great point, isn't it?
I'm so
Are
glad.
you writing this down, audience? Because some of this, pearls. Ooh, oh,
I was worried. I was like, first of all, it's not coming to me, and it was at least marginal point. Audience, you'll just have to tell me if that was reasonable or not. But anyway, we're going to continue.
Again, this is the joy of the online format, isn't it? Because if we were doing this in front of a crowd, we'd see the crowd going, you know. Now we can't see the crowd at all. There's somebody in chat pointing that out to us, but that's fine. Okay.
And just fast
They're
forward
right.
it, just go, look, audience, if you're watching this as well, skip that bit when Alex has a mind blank. Just move on, It's okay.
There will be a music quiz later, just for people who are thinking of skipping forward. Don't. There's a music quiz later.
That's right. That's right. We're going to talk about some of the key kind of target markets, because again, it all matters about who you are trying to sell to: kids, teens, professionals, and leisure. Tom, talk about leisure as well, because that may not be quite as intuitive.
Well, what I think is interesting about the leisure market is that it's a relatively new market, and it's all about online teaching, because what you've got with the leisure market is people who maybe have a great level of fluency in the language, whichever language it is, and they may use it for work. They may have used it a long time ago and be in their heads very fluent, but then actually stumble a little, and we've all been there. The leisure market is people who think, actually, what I want is a mental gym. What I want is a kind of brain workout where I join a class, a chat room, some sort of, and the online thing works really well here, because they're clocking in once, twice a week, doing an hour of, be it, so if, for example, you've got somebody who is a doctor or an engineer, and they spend an hour a week not talking about medicine or not talking about engineering in their language that they use at work. Because often, when you learn a language, you've got a really good lexical group, and you can have really good conversations about that thing. So, for example, I learned my French work in the kitchen, so I had really fluent conversations about the things you talk about in working in kitchens or working in restaurants. That lexical group is very solid. And then somebody else would talk to me about golf or fishing, and I've got nothing. And often, even at quite advanced levels, language learners, you do find you've got your lexical group, and anything beyond that is a struggle. So doing the kind of leisure market for language learners is very much that kind of clocking in and using it as a mental gym. That they come in and they join a group thing or do a one-to-one thing, which takes them in a different direction and breaks them out of their rut. And you often plateau in a language because you can do the things you need to do, but then pushing yourself higher is the mental gym, and that's the leisure market. And that sometimes goes into the pro market, because you get professionals who are saying, well, I'm really advanced and I need to do this, or I need to be this advanced. And part of the way they do that is by doing things that are not a class as such, that are not them doing scripted activities, that are not them doing grammar activities, that are not them doing traditional classroom things, but having free form discussions and unscripted conversations. And that's very powerful. And I think that's also true with teens, and that can also be true with kids to a degree as well. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I wanted to really kind of...
Sorry, my mum's on the phone. My mother. Hello, mum. Hi, I'm actually in a webinar at the moment, but I just answered because you're my mother. So, all right. Are you okay though? Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, later. Brilliant. Ooh, mash. Mash.
Hello.
All right. Thanks, mum. Cheers. Brilliant. Sorry.
What I like about it, though, you're showing respect to your mum. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
mean, I'm not being funny. You people are really important as an audience, obviously. Don't get me wrong, Alex. I wouldn't waste your time. My mother outranks all of you quite clearly.
Yeah.
Well, and I would.
We can lesson learned, and good prop.
Yeah. Answer the phone to your mum. That's if you take away nothing from this session other than whatever you're doing. If your phone rings and it's your mother, answer the phone. That's my message to you now. Write that down. You at the back. Write that down.
That's right. That's on the quiz as well. We're going to just go back to that though, which was, we kind of mentioned these 4 different types, like that was all of it. No, that's not the only options. Like one of the things I really liked about that, Tom, in particular on talking about leisure, is you kind of looked at something and you thought, hey, look, here's another way of categorizing it. And that, if you're listening in here as an entrepreneur, you need to be having those conversations and those thoughts, because those where you might find this really actually massive market. Like when you think about online anyway, one of the most amazing things that the internet did is it kind of democratized certain areas of the world, right? Like if you were really into fantasy books starting with the letter J, you
Loads of fantasy books there, just saying.
you probably could find.
Sorry, my wife's coming and my daughter. Quick, quick.
Wow, this is definitely show and tell.
Sorry, my son was on the sofa having a sleep. My wife just
Okay.
to find him.
Well, we're all
Sorry,
there.
she also outranks all of us as well. Definitely outranks me. I'm terrified.
Tom, what did you think in terms of how you can find these unique opportunities now, in terms of, that we don't know everything there is about online language tuition, right? Like it's been around for a long time, but a lot of people have been doing exactly the same thing. And actually a lot of the online providers, they're all trying to find their little niche. They're trying to find their unique way of offering their service. And what kind of opportunity do you think there is for innovation still?
It's really interesting. It's like swimming, isn't it? That most of us can swim, and we kind of think, swimming is a basic thing that people do. But there's always advances in swimming, and I think it's the same with education, isn't it? That we wouldn't say, well, the online stuff's been around forever, so we've done it. We'd say, just like the classroom, the physical classroom's been around forever, but there's still loads of innovation there. And I think the online stuff is it's all amount of innovation. And I think what's exciting for me is the clients that I'm talking to with schools and such like that are putting together an online thing. My problem there sometimes is that they are very keen to appeal to everyone, and they're very keen to offer everything that the market wants. So they want to do business, and they want to do teens, and they want to do kids, and they want to do this, and you say that's great, it's lovely. And some people can do those things, but you're also saying, but if you are everything, are you maybe nothing? If you're a Swiss Army knife with all the blades, are you any good at any of those things? You've got the scissors, but if you just do the one thing and the market knows you as the people that do that, then that's a kind of stronger card often, isn't it? That,
I really think of, actually, you got me really thinking in terms of what analogy I feel is most relevant for the online language learning component. And I actually think gym's actually quite similar.
Yeah, definitely.
Because gyms, there are so many different ways you can exercise, right? But the gyms in the 60s look very different to the gyms now. And actually, if you were to start a gym, you wouldn't be like, hey, we're global gym, we do everything, come to our gym. Like, there are so many other really large competitors that are already there that it'll be very hard to kind of compete head to head. It's like David and Goliath. And so what you tend to see is people go, no, we're going to use Swiss balls. Like, we specialize purely in using Swiss balls, or we specialize purely in doing circuit training, or and they can just come up with stuff. And some of it's relevant and some of it's not. Like prancer-sizing, I'm not sure that's a thing, but it's a thing to some people. And that's fine. And that is completely fine. And maybe you can also have a healthy dose of like innovating and coming up with new ways of packaging and still creating a really effective, useful service. And again, it comes down to the outcome and the experience that people want. Going back to prancer-sizing, of course, if the outcome is to be fit, there are lots of ways that you can do that. And if the experience that you want is to prance like a pony and in a kind of human-like fashion, then that is fine too.
And frankly, who would not want to do that? Because it's amazing. I have prancer-sized actually, and I was very scornful and yet loved it. And I'd highly recommend it to those who haven't prancer-sized.
That's right. And that's
one of
the things about online is the fact that you can find, if you think about it, if you found, are there 500 people in the whole world that would be interested in that? Absolutely. And so maybe your job when you're offering something online is knowing those people. Hey, they really look like this. They really enjoy things like this. and I'm going to find them in these places. That's kind of the job of the online marketer. So let's continue, but thinking really, I want kind of certainly the listeners here to really be thinking about, where are some niches, where are some specializations, where are some opportunities and different ways of doing that they could really both stand out and attract an audience and really pull an audience really closely to them. Thom?
Can I also say, taking on your gym thing, the idea there, I think, is that a lot of online offerings people will sign up for and never go to, So much like a gym, it's great if people sign up or show interest, and that traffic is great, but the traction comes from getting them to do it and getting them to see the benefits, So being able to measure progress and being able to say to somebody, you've done this with us, and as a result, you can now do this, is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, because I don't get
the opportunity to
girls
flex.
like, I haven't been to the gym all year. You should so go to my gym. I'm like never there.
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
Yeah. And it's also, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because there is the thing where people do go to a gym and they just do reps of the machines they like, know? And as a result, they've got like one massive shoulder. Do you know what I mean? Like teenage boys. And you're sort of saying this, the muscles that you develop by doing one exercise are great for that exercise. But actually, if you're great at rowing, you're probably not going to be any good at cycling, or you're not necessarily going to be good at running. And fitness is a holistic thing. And that's very much the same with learning a language, that if you're in that, you can talk very well about engineering. It's lovely. But if you can't then have a chat with somebody in a bar afterwards, you've had the meeting for work, but then, if you can't do both of those things, and for learners and the market, I think it is that thing of saying, look, it's great, we can get you to this level of negotiation or this level of engineering, but we can also allow you to discover a whole new culture through this language.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to I think we will do this metaphor to death if we continue. So we'll try to avoid it. But there is a big difference between, like, let's say building muscle and getting fit, right? So like being fit is sort of like, in a language sense, is being like really like being able to have long ongoing conversations and being quite flexible and being able to be quite flexible and able to have those really meaningful conversations. Whereas building muscle might just be like muscle memory, like it's just, I'm just trying to smash this test, that's all I want to do. And so they're going to be very different ways that you market and sell, and it's really important to know what those
that's why it's really nice to have those academic tools like the Common European Framework, because the Common European Framework is all about can-do statements, that at this level you can do this and you can freely discuss this topic, but also should this come up, that's fine too. And that's a really great measure, I think.
Definitely. We are going to go back to our presentation because we're probably straying fairly.
There's an audience out there, and those people need some sort of structure.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're just free-form jazz chat, which is great.
So we're going to talk about actual things that you can focus on. So standing up, to be fair, we've been talking about this the whole session, which is you need to stand out. So I don't think we didn't go too far off, Thom, because that's the fundamental. Like, you need to be able to go, we do things this way, and it makes sense to you because of this, and it's valuable because of this. And that's why we're talking to you as an individual, one person, one message, one person, rather than it being like, hey, if you're 30 to 50 years old and you have, gray hair, well, then this is the perfect language course for you. That is a really different conversation to being like, hey, Thom, I think it's you. This is you're going to love this. This is going to be the greatest language course ever. So you kind of need to be talking to people in that way. And that's, again, both knowing your market and standing up being really, really important.
And there's a real power in messaging where you're saying to people, this is not for you. That's
pushing some people away.
Yeah, saying, look, if you want to do this, this, and this, we can't do that for you. We are not where you need to be. But if you want this, this, and this, we really do this well.
Yeah. And that, as I say, this is really magnified online. Like, you can possibly get away with more of it in an in-person feel, because what you're saying often is like, if you're based in York, okay, then you want to learn a language, okay, and well, we can do all of these things. It's like, well, I am in York, And so there's not that many other people that can do that. So, well, I guess, I'll just base it on who I think is going to speak best to me. Whereas when you're online, you could be in York, but you'd be like, no, I want to learn in this particular way. And actually the best place is going to be in Austria. There's somebody, it's only an hour away anyway, and that's irrelevant, but they've got all these great teachers and they speak exactly to what I want to learn in the way that I want to learn it. So that's why it's such a big deal going from physical into the online space.
But that's why it's also nice to bring a bit of the physical with you, isn't it? Because that is your standout thing, isn't it? Of saying we are based in, the South Island and we're doing this and this, or we're based in Shanghai and we can do this.
Yeah.
Because we're here, we've got this real, the place that you are and the place that you're based in does kind of, does market you itself as much as that's needed, And I think that thing, the offering of having teachers from all around the world is exciting. Not having teachers that are tethered to one physical place, that have the same accent, that have the same cultural perspective. Having teachers from all around the world, which you can in an online school, I think is a real great offering.
Yeah, that's it. And I think part of what we're talking about today is, there's no point in talking about advanced techniques until you've got the basic techniques down. One of those techniques is that your website and your service and your offering, pretty much every single part of your offering has to be up to a certain standard. So the standard is not, hey, here's a Zoom meeting, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
The standard's been a lot higher than that for a long time. So minimum, you need to have a website that's telling your message, telling your story, telling somebody why they should buy it. Because before they even see your service, they have to trust you and like you and really believe that you're going to be able to fulfill that promise. Like, particularly some of these courses are not cheap, even if like the hourly amount isn't that much. Like, people aren't going to just part with $500 just because, why not? No, they're going to really do their due diligence, because they're like, if I want to learn online, I'm going to at least compare. Generally, people compare at least sort of three to five options. They almost never have, they're usually not like, oh, well, that was the first one. Now, Google will tell you differently in terms of a lot of people go in whatever the number one category is ranked. That's true. But if you're actually doing a purchase decision and you have no real knowledge about what you're doing, this isn't the same as a blog. This is like, no, I actually want to find the right language instructor for me. It's a decent decision. People are going to do their evaluation, their reviews, and they're checking out. Tom.
I think it's, for me, it often makes me think of, the conversations I'm having now are the same conversations I had 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago with people about online dating, where some people would kind of sneer and go, oh God, it's hideous, isn't it awful? And even a year ago, some people I was talking to were saying, oh, online learning, there's no point, it's rubbish. And, now the majority of people are meeting online in terms of relationships and the future of the human race. Certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, the majority of that's happening online, and that's very normal and part of our culture and accepted now. And there's no sort of shame in saying, well, actually, we met on this app, and I think that's very true with learning now, that people are, even a year ago saying, oh, no, totally rubbish, no point whatsoever, it doesn't do anything. And now saying, actually, it's perfectly fine. And, and that acceptance and value is a very clear picture, I think.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that's quite different here as well is, I think up to this point, a lot of language schools never felt like their website needed to be really anything just more like than just having one. And sort of, you talk about online dating. Yeah, if you look, I want to do online dating, I can guarantee you that the websites are going to look smooth. The experience is going to be pretty amazing. Now, whether or not it delivers on love, that's an entirely different conversation. But you're not going to be seeing like, oh, if you like text chat, then you should go to this website and look, it goes through all of these other different, you have to do all of these different steps manually. And then you're only going to be able to use text chat. You're never going to be able to send an image at all at any time. And actually, you'll probably never be able to meet. But you should definitely online date this way. So I think what I'm sort of saying is that you can't use the standards of the past to assume that they kind of like, oh, well, I'm still doing it right. It's like, people's expectations have really moved on, and so
Yeah,
the standards are just so much higher.
but
uh,
similarly, I think a lot of those websites will actually help you get to the right decision in terms of the
yeah,
person you might want to meet, but also, in terms of language learning, there's a lot of the websites that do this well.
yeah,
That when you are signing up, will eliminate a lot of the products that you don't want and a lot of the questions that you have,
yeah,
and guide you to a thing you actually need. And I think we're not like online dating at all in terms of online education, but that similarity is there, isn't it? Is testing what your customer wants and
yeah.
being able to give them and deliver what they need.
That's it. And I
Which
think, yeah, I think some people immediately then go, oh, well, that's just, that sounds way too complicated. I'll never be able to do all that. And it's like, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to have a lot of different pathways as long as you've picked one pathway really well, know how to target that market really well. So again, it just depends. If your targeting is all over the show, then your product needs to define and refine your offerings really, really fast.
yeah,
So either way, you need to make an investment somewhere. And usually it's much faster to focus and put your efforts on the focus component rather than on the experience, trying to whittle away what the experience needs to look like and adapt for a particular customer.
well, it's the McDonald's thing, isn't it? That you know, anywhere you go in the world, even if you don't like McDonald's, you know that you will get fed in 5 minutes, and it will cost under $5. And that's the thing, isn't it? And as a brand, what you want is people to go, right, that school, if I need to be doing presentations, or if I need to be pulling stuff apart, if I need to be
Yeah,
you know I need to be at that school or that school or that school. So you don't need to be all of the schools, you just need to be the one school doing something very well and better than McDonald's, although include gherkins because everybody likes
yeah,
them.
absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I like that. Um, and so you need to be building that trust and social proof as well.
Mm.
Like, again, these might not seem very difficult techniques. It's just that they're essential. Like, you can't go to more advanced steps until you've got the basics down. There's no
Yeah.
point in kind of going, oh, but I'm trying this other kind of marketing campaign and I'm doing this 2, 3, 4 step process. And it's like, well, what have you done to kind of increase trust and make people feel like they can purchase with you?
Yeah. And it's that basic stuff, isn't it, that we've
Yeah,
talked about before, but the idea that people are always going to trust somebody other than you to talk about you, in
sure.
terms of your school's best ambassador is going to be former students
Yeah,
saying, I went to the school, it's great, I really enjoyed it, is much more powerful and much more persuasive than you going, our school's great, our school's really good. And that's
right.
so easy to do, isn't it? Because alumni do really want to join in, and the amount of times what I always think is interesting as a school is that you often go for new sales and don't go back through the sales you've already done, because
Yeah,
those people have already bought from you and they're going to buy again. And
yeah,
that's the online offline thing, is that as a physical school, the person that comes to you from Singapore is going to go back to Singapore, so then they're not going to come back to your school in Bristol. But if you're an online school, they may go back to Singapore and then they may well come back to you. Why would they not? So that sort of alma mater stuff is really powerful, I think, for the online schools.
that's right. And it's interesting the way that you sort of say that, Tom, as well, is there is enough to keep you busy just focusing on improving and getting the basics right. There's more than enough work on that before you worry about, okay, I've got Facebook and Instagram. I really want to see how Twitter marketing works. It's like,
Yeah.
is that really going to boost your business, or is spending a bit more time really thinking about your customer, thinking about your past customers, reaching out to those past customers either through remarketing or even just a simple email or even a call, amazingly, a call, something like that.
Yeah.
There are so many like basic things that we can kind of work on before we're worried about kind of those kind of really complicated factors. I mean, I certainly even know from our business, we definitely still get some of the basics wrong. and what's annoying is actually it just takes a really long time to build all of those different pieces out, and we're just talking about building trust and social proof. There's so much work you can do there. You can go on review sites, you can get partners, you can build out your blog content, you can get reviews and testimonials, you can get them videos, you can get still pictures of them, you can play around with the messaging. There's all of these things that need to be done before you worry about, hey, TikTok, how am I going to use TikTok? It's like, it's a tactic. it's definitely not going to be your best bang for buck than getting the basics right. So I think that's just sort of one thing.
Well, it's getting the website.
Oh, sorry. Am I meant
Oh,
to?
that's so cute. Oh, God, I didn't even know.
No, you know what? I where I was going with this slide, Tom, was
Please
I.
explain.
You know,
I mean, I'm flattered, but go for it. Yeah.
but we were talking about online dating, and it's very similar. And
So
this
true.
this is being used so much, but I only put it there because you can think of all the other speakers who have also used the same analogy, and yet we still muck it up. We still go, buy from us, and we still forget to go, hey, here's what. And hopefully I've got. No, I don't have something. I thought I might have a different slide to look at rather than us focusing on you marrying me, Tom. But will you marry me? No. It is, what are some low risk ways that people can try and test you out before they even bother, even try a course? And particularly if you think about in a purchase equation, when you're talking about is somebody dating or somebody, marrying somebody, if you're kind of like, hey, buy the 6-month to 12-month contract with us, and we're going to teach you amazing stuff. It's going to be phenomenal. That is like marrying, because also that's going to be a really high value product. So you're going to need to really build a relationship before somebody is going to buy from you with such a high value product. Now, if you're saying, look, just come along, I'll buy you tea. You know what? What do you got to lose? And you create a really safe environment. I mean, a webinar is one of those things for us here. It's like, look, here's a bit, you can just test us out, see what we like, see who we are, see what we talk about. What have you got to lose? It's a really low risk way of getting to know somebody. And so I think certainly when you're talking about your sales techniques for selling language courses, if you're constantly going, will you marry me? Will you marry me? And you're just pushing it out there to 10,000 names, you're wondering, why is nobody marrying me? Try and do it on the street. See if it works. It's no different.
So true, isn't it? Definitely, yeah. Because your online presence has to be about kind of persuading people that don't want what you've got, or to not go for it, but also showing people what you have got to an extent that by the time they actually engage with you, engagement, then they already want what you've got. Do you know what I mean? They're already willing to buy from you. So, you're not kind of going, buy from me now, marry me, marry me, marry me. You're sort of building them with your social presence, with your online presence, your social media content, to a level where they already agree with what it is. And then when the proposal comes, they're like, oh yeah, great, that is what I want.
Yeah. No,
which is actually weirdly how I proposed to my wife. So yeah.
If you're listening in and you want relationship advice, this is suddenly going to take a mess.
We've got it all.
And we're going to be talking with Dr. Thom Jones.
Like all good relationships, it's impossible to judge from the outside. Also impossible to judge from the inside as well.
One thing we're going to talk about now is, in terms of sales techniques, I actually think a big part of that as well is, we're talking about will you marry me kind of thing. Being really transparent as well, I think, can really help people. It's like, look, before you even remotely try, purchase one of our products, it'd be great if you did, but that's not our first role here. The first role is for you to get to know me, what I'm like. Hey, here's a video that you're going to love. And then people go, cool, you like the video? You probably want to make sure that I actually am kind of delivering like this every time. Here's a webinar, it's live, like a little bit more. The next step is probably going to be like, hey, why don't you just join? You're probably going to do a free trial with me. And if you like it, then we're going to put you on a plan. And you can choose if you want to do, maybe 5 or 10 lessons with me. It's a commitment, but it's, you've already seen what we're like. You kind of know what you're getting there. But you're probably not going to buy a 1,000 class package. But once you've done that 10 class package, you can be like, well, I actually really trust them. They've delivered on their promise every single time up to this point. Now I'm not going to go for the 1,000, but I'll pay for the 100 class package. And so you can, even in that free trial, you could be like, look, my job here is actually to just assess where you're at. We're just going to do a bit of an audit, see where you're at. And at the end of this, you're going to be in a position to feel either really confident that, hey, LearnCube or whichever your service is called is going to do a great job for me, or you're just going to, maybe you're going to say no. And that's fine too. There's not going to be a risk here, and you can try it before you buy it. So I did want to kind of mention how important it is to show that, how can we lower risk and increase the value proposition? Anything you can do that kind of does that is going to be good for your business.
And good for your customer, which means they're going to come back.
Yeah.
You know, I think
And
that's
it's going to be easy as well to recommend, like even much faster, right? Because if somebody's going, hey, I went to the webinar, that was actually really good. That is pretty, like then the person that they've told, they're not going to have to buy something. They're like, hey, here's a free thing. I thought it was useful. Why don't you come along?
And that, like I'm redoing my website at the moment, and part of that is tailoring it so that the people that finally get to me are people who understand the value that I bring to it,
Yeah.
and realize that they're taking a very minimal risk, because what I'm trying to do is kind of funnel people that are actually going to get me to do something I'm good at, because the other thing, if you've got that wide open thing, you get people come to you going, listen, can I do like English and golf online? And you're like, we're going to pay. Yeah. All right. And actually all you'll do is do that badly.
Yeah.
So I don't want customers coming to me and asking me to do something that I'm not very good at.
No.
Customers come to me to do the very limited number of things that I'm good at, because I'm good at those things. So part of any good kind of website, any good online presence, is making sure that people are getting that structured thing out there, and your value's there, and their risk is clear, and that transparency is really, really key, I think.
I agree. And I think also one of the reasons why it's so powerful to help people disqualify themselves in a way is actually it just saves you lots of time, because any time that you're not on a call where the conversation is going to go nowhere, there's another call you can take with somebody that actually is a good fit for you.
Yeah.
So you probably want to be really transparent on price. You probably really want to be transparent with your service, because if somebody comes up to that decision-making point, and then you tell them the price and they go, why didn't you tell me that up front? There's no way I can afford that. I'm living on $2 a day, and that's well beyond what I can do. Sorry, I can't do it. It's like, and there's nothing you can do to convince that person, even though everything else about that kind of worked. So that's why you just got to respect your time and respect their time by particularly trying to reduce the risk for both parties to agree to move forward.
Definitely. Totally agree with that. Yeah.
So use that free trial as well. It is also one of the most commonly used things online, and it works. Now, it won't work very well for you if you send just terrible traffic. Now, again, free trials are not a cost. They're not a zero cost product, and that you still have to pay somebody, either yourself, it's your time, or it's more likely to be one of your teachers' time, which you're paying for. Now, as I say, the return on investment there is great. It's well worth doing it. If you have somebody that at the end of that is like, I'm just needing you to nudge me over the line. But there's no point in sending a whole bunch of cold traffic to, hey, free trial, free trial, free trial. In terms of cold traffic, like you don't know if they're actually interested in learning a language in the first place. You don't know if the price point is even remotely kind of where you want it to be. And you might even have to take a couple of guesses based on the country that you're advertising to, or those sorts of things. But you kind of want that person who turns up to that free trial to be like, if you do a good job, I'm going to buy. That's all you need. But you don't want somebody going, I wonder what a free trial is. And that's just going to waste everybody's time, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So I think those are some other ways that you might just need to.
It's also and again, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, that can take easily months to figure out how to do that really well. Like you can do it tomorrow, but to do it really well, it's going to take some experimentation. It's going to take a bit of work.
And what's nice about a free trial, I think, is that you are able to show people that sincerity and authenticity that really are the key to buying online, where people come in and go, yeah, bang on, that's exactly what I wanted, because if people are left thinking it's a trap, and feeling like you've suddenly sprung bits on them, then yeah, they're not going to like it, they're not going to buy, and they're not going to come back.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of gone through some of the main ideas in terms of your selling techniques. But again, you've got to have your base right. If you've got your base right, now, by the way, that's going to take quite a lot of work. Then you can start looking at some kind of alternatives and start having a bit of a play. But I don't start riffing off doing, the most complicated guitar riff straight from day zero, or even in 3 months, even if I'm doing it every single day. I mean, it's going to take a long time for me to build up the strength and the foundations to be able to move forward. And I don't think it's any different in terms of starting a new part of your business. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time, but it is going to be worth it because it's going to provide this massive resilience to your business that I think is, it's just so valuable. And I mean, we're already seeing it now. The resilience in your business is going to be crucial.
Yeah, it's the future proofing. It's the, we've had one curveball already
Yeah.
in terms of 2020. What comes next? And I would like it to be at least 100 years of peace and prosperity. That may not be the case. Who knows? And having a real kind of strength to your base means that you can go in different directions if you need to, whatever happens next. But I would like to also say that whatever happens next will be probably better than this, because it's been a tough year.
Yeah, it has been a tough year, but one thing that's been positive about this, and I hope that you're actually starting to enjoy the experience along the way. I know that I am, and I know that a lot of physical schools that are successfully going online. Now, when I say successfully, a lot of that often comes down to their attitude as well. Like they actually want to succeed online. They don't want to be like, oh, I really hope that I'm really great at online because I love online. Like they actually have to be pumped about it because they're like, no, this is a whole new business challenge, whole new area that I didn't think I was ever going to have to do. Okay, yes, I'm forced. Now I've got motivation. Now I'm going to have to do it really well. And now I'm going to have to be world class. That's a pretty cool challenge. And I get to now hang out with you, Tom. Like we wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't a massive crisis. So
it certainly wouldn't. We did meet physically first off, didn't we? But should we tell them a story about how we met? It's so cute.
Are we going to get married after all?
There was a moon. There was music. Tall and dark and handsome. What can you do? But it does come back in a sense to that marriage thing, doesn't it? Because you were saying before, are you going to walk down the street and just randomly say to people, "Marry me, marry me, marry me," or are you going to stand in front of your school with a sandwich board saying "good school" and stand there going, "Yeah, come in. Yeah, if you want it. If you're not bothered." No, you're going to stand out front and go, "Yeah, this is great. Come in, come in." Because if you aren't enthusiastic about it and you haven't really worked out what you want to sell, nobody's going to buy anything,
Yeah, that's it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it listening in. Again, Tom and I always love having a good chat and thinking about these ideas and coming up with obviously new amazing metaphors and analogies. I think we've gone through many today and I've enjoyed every one of them.
I thought of a really good one involving martial arts, but frankly, I think we've metaphored out. I'm just going to leave it.
Next time, Tom, I think we're going to go through it and then we're going to create the best thing for those that are interested in martial arts.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
That's the sweet spot. Yeah.
Martial arts, learning
right
language.
On.
You can go, please don't hit me. Okay, brilliant. Love it.
All right. Thanks all and see you again next time.
Thanks ever so much for your time, everybody.
Right on. Okay. Let me just stop the